Hello, Victoria. Welcome to my podcast. I've been always looking through your posts on your Instagram, like on your different social media page, and also even for your interviews as well, which I find to be very insightful, partly because I'm also someone that loves traveling. Plus, the thing that you're trying to do to go beyond the traditional path of just doing corporate, I think that is inspiring in some way, which I definitely want to chat a little bit more about. But before we start, for those who don't know you, can you share maybe in like two, three lines, who are you, what you do, and what do people usually think about you as an identity?
Right. So I'm Victoria and I have a full-time job as a lawyer right now. So I'm working in a law firm as a solicitor. And I love traveling, as you have mentioned. So I have been sharing my thoughts about my travels on social media, I think for over 10 years,
Mm.
yeah, till now. And well, somebody calls that a content creator, but I don't really like that labeling because to me, I'm only sharing my thoughts, not really creating some contents. But yeah, that's part of my identity. And also, I love to sing, just like you. And I don't know, I think we used to sing together, maybe. I'm not sure. Or maybe
Maybe,
not.
maybe
Maybe
not.
not. I'm too old. Yeah.
We just missed the window. Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, I love singing. So, well, honestly, I don't sing a lot nowadays, but I'm still in some sort of a choir. And I also published my own song 2 years ago, I think. And I also wrote a book on my travels, like also 2 years ago. So, kind of in that sense, I can call myself a travel writer and also a singer or amateur singer, something like that.
Nice. I think we have a lot to unpack here with
Yeah.
the multiple identities and roles that you have put on yourself, which is impressive. Before this podcast, I asked you to prepare a quote that best
Hmm.
describe how you live your life right now, right? And you mentioned to me, which is also something you wrote in your book,
Yes.
which is be a person with soul.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about what does that mean to you?
Right. So actually, the original phrase in Chinese is "当個有靈魂的人." Be a person with soul or be a soulful person. I don't know how to best translate it. But to me, a person with soul or a soulful person, it means something like living your life, living every moment of your life with immense sense of feeling, spirituality, or passion. It's like you are living every moment consciously knowing what you are doing. So that kind of soul that I'm thinking about, it's more like be in the moment or be in the present or be present, soulfully present in every moment or in everything that you are doing. This is because I think that in the past or even nowadays, I'm often in a situation where I'm rushing a lot of things. Sometimes I do not really know what I'm doing in every moment. Like if I have to think back what I did today or the past week, then I feel really empty or I feel that time just passed and I didn't really live in the moment. So that's sort of something that I hope to remind myself and also something that I wish I can live out every day, that I'm really in every moment that I'm living. I know what I'm doing. I know the sense of purpose. I know where I'm going. Yeah.
Mm. Do you think that realization of or that reminder of being a soulful person to yourself, was there a particular moment that made you realize that?
All right. I can't really pinpoint a specific moment, but I think it's through my travels. I'm sure you understand what I mean. Like
Mm.
when it's through my travels that I often feel like I have a lot of thoughts that I wouldn't have when I'm living my life. And those thoughts, I wouldn't say whether they're good or bad thoughts, but it's just that process of knowing that you are thinking about yourself and you are observing what's happening in this world and you are trying to be in the moment, enjoying the moment that you are at, makes me realize that I seldom do it in my in my
Mm.
daily life. It seems that it's only when I'm traveling that I manage to focus in what I'm doing or what I'm seeing in front of me or what I'm thinking, processing in my brain. But when I am like back in Hong Kong and at work or rushing a lot of stuff, then I sometimes really it's just like feeling of you just look back and you don't know what you have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's through my travels that I realized that oh, life can be so I won't say rewarding, but it can be so different if you focus on the things that you're doing right now and you focus on your thoughts, focus on how the environment around you it's inspiring you or giving you some new thoughts. It can be so rewarding. But I don't know why in daily life it's so hard to do it. So this is a reminder to myself, and it was through my travels that I realized that it can be a lot different if I live every day, every moment consciously with soul. Yeah.
It's interesting. You mentioned about the gap between how in your daily life, somehow the environment doesn't allow you to be that person, whereas you manage to find that through your traveling, right?
Yeah.
What do you think creates that gap?
Um, Sometimes I think, well, because traveling is the easiest way to pull you out from the environment that you're very familiar
Right.
with. And very often, I mean, if things repeat, then you just get used to it without thinking why you are doing that or why you have to do that. And it's also because in Hong Kong, I think, or maybe myself only, I don't know, I'm constantly surrounded by people with similar background, culture, and thinking. Like we grew up in similar backgrounds. So sometimes that kind of familiarity or that kind of I'm very used to being around by people that's very similar to me. So it's not that I did not want to think out of the box, but sometimes it's just that you just follow what everybody else does,
You
and
don't even know
you
there's a
don't even know.
box.
Yeah, you don't even know that you can think outside of the box, or
Right.
you don't even know that you're trapping yourself in some sort of a cage or a mentality cage that you don't even realize that. But traveling is the easy way to pull you out from that because you travel to a place with a different culture, with a language that you don't speak, and with a lot of new sensations every day. You're seeing new things, new sceneries, meeting new people, and new conversations. So, all that kind of things actually speed up the whole process of you being able to get outside of the box that you used to trap yourself in. Yeah.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense how like oftentimes like people tell you to live outside the box, but I think the biggest problem is not really to step out of the box. The biggest challenge might be to even see that you're in a box.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
it's kind of a tricky situation of the whole thing about living in the box, outside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which led me to something that I want to do with you when it comes to our upcoming conversations. Obviously, I read through a lot of what you wrote online, which I very much enjoy. I think,
Shy.
yeah, no, I think there's also one thing I really do find a lot of joy reading the stuff that you put online, especially your reflections. I really do admire, or like I'm almost jealous, is the choice of words that I find to be very on point, that really like describes exactly that particular feeling or emotion that you're having in that particular time. So I really appreciate how the choice of words, I think it's so beautiful in a way that makes readers like myself to think about what is happening in their life. Somehow it creates the connection with you and the audience as well. So that is something I really
Thank you.
really do find a lot of joy in reading. Yeah. But what I want to do now is to pull out a few quotes, and along with the quote, there are words that you use that I find to be very intriguing, that I just want to dig deeper and dive into. So if you allow me to do so, I will just share different quotes one by one, and then I'll just want to ask you and understand more what were you thinking back then and how do you interpret it.
I
Okay.
hope I remember.
Yes, yes. I won't hold it against you though. Okay. Um, the first one is I was reading one of your interviews with some local magazine, probably. You have a quote which I translated into English. Let me read it for you. The quote goes like, "For me, travel was both an escape and a way to breathe. To my surprise, these repeated escapes eventually became the opportunity for me to break through my mental barriers." So with that quote, I hope you remember that quote, like escape and a way to breathe. You mentioned about like
Yeah.
in Chinese like you use like 逃避,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
like a way to breathe like is like 呼吸嘅空間, right? I'm very intrigued by the choice of words, escape and a way to breathe. Can you bring me back to that
Yeah.
period of your life? What were you escaping?
Sure. I think when I was writing that or when I was doing that interview, I was probably talking about maybe around 10 years ago when I just started my job as a lawyer. Because back in those days, actually, I didn't think that I was escaping. I mean, just like everybody who works in Hong Kong, right? You long for your holidays and you take all your annual leaves and then you look forward to your trips. So back then, I was also like that. I worked really, really hard basically staying in the office until midnight almost every day and then looking forward to my trips. But then in the trips, I realized that I was actually very, very stressed. Um, for example, I went to Cuba in I think maybe 9 years ago. And then that was a time when I was in the most stressful period of my job because I was having my training and hoping to get qualified into a department that I really like. So I was under a lot of pressure. And I actually didn't realize that I was under so much pressure until that trip because in that trip I was traveling solo and then I think I missed a bus or something or a couple of things that happened that wasn't really like what I planned. Like I missed a bus and I also ran into some scammers who tried to scam me for a lot of, actually it's just for some money. I just feel very disappointed that my plans are disrupted and I just feel very disappointed that, oh, it's finally my trip. It's finally my holidays. I don't have to work, but why am I facing all these? I mean, even though I just missed a bus, I mean, that bus is just, it's not about the money. It's just very cheap. But I cried at the bus stop as if I lost a lot of things, as if I was, I don't know, harassed or something. I just cried nonstop in the bus stop alone for an hour because I missed that bus. I was blaming myself why I allowed myself to miss that bus. But in the past, I wasn't like that. Then I realized that before I started working, I am relatively easygoing, I think. I mean, these kind of things to me, I would be like, oh, okay, never mind, I'll take the next bus. But then maybe because I was under so much pressure that I didn't realize I was in that situation. So these kind of small things actually triggered my emotions. So at that point of time, I realized that all of my trips or my travels were actually kind of an escape from the stress that I was feeling. I didn't want to tell myself that I am actually under really a stressful situation and I didn't think it was a problem or I have to deal with it. I just used travel as a way out, hoping to forget everything about the stress and the things that I'm facing at office. And
But why didn't want you to admit to yourself that
I
the
don't
stress
know,
is the problem?
maybe I just wanted to sound cool, or maybe everybody. I think it's because of the comparison, maybe. Because at that time, everybody, like my classmates, they are all starting their career, so I feel like, okay, it's normal. Everybody feels stressful because everybody works late. Even if you're not climbing up the corporate ladder, you're trying to work hard to get recognized. So I thought it's a normal thing. It's not that I don't think stress is not good, but I just thought there's nothing to complain about. I mean, everybody's doing the same. So I wouldn't feel that I need to face it, or I wouldn't feel that I need to admit that I was very stressful. I just want people to recognize that I'm working hard and I'm just like everybody else, getting a good job and trying hard to be recognized.
Mm, yeah. You mentioned about how your whole environment definitely is stressful, it's pressure, but how everyone is doing the same. So there's nothing to complain about. Like it will be your problem if you bitch about it, right?
Yeah,
So do you think that environment it's also something that you would like to escape from, or is it mostly the pressure part?
I think actually both. I didn't realize that at that point of time, but I think I was trying to pretend or I was trying to live like what others are doing.
Mm.
So but well, sooner or later, as the quote said, I realized that that's not really me. So that's how travel changed me because I realized my own problems. And part of the problem is that I was trying hard to fit in and trying hard to make myself similar to the others, pursuing a similar path as my peers were doing.
Yeah. When I was reading your quote, I was also reflecting on if I was escaping from anything through traveling.
Hmm.
I think it comes down to two things, which I'm pretty sure you will agree with. The first thing is how your environment is filled with people that are the same. It's the homogeneity
Yeah.
of the environment. That is the first thing that I'm trying to I don't know if escape seems to be too much strong of a word for me, but at least I think traveling helps me to take myself away from this homogeneous environment of Hong Kong. As you said, very appropriately, if you're stuck in that box, you don't even realize that there's a boundary. It's only through traveling for me that took me away from that homogeneous environment that I start to see, oh, there is actually this box in my life back home,
Yeah.
and there's so much more outside of the box. So I think that is one thing that I also from traveling learned to escape. The second thing that I'm trying to escape from you may call it, will be the structure of the society. How this society is so structured, there's not much things that are unexpected. And for me, I find a lot of joy from daily
Yeah.
randomness. How when you're traveling, you don't know who you'll be meeting. You check into this hostel, you don't know who you'll be staying in the dorm with other 10 people, and the different conversations and different simulations that you said, those randomness I call, is something that I long for, which I feel like I am trying to escape this structural environment, especially for Hong Kong, which is being super efficient. I don't even need to think when the next train will come because I know it will arrive in 2 minutes, right? But somehow that efficiency serves me in my daily life, but it doesn't serve me in my mind.
Right.
That through traveling, it allows me to inject more randomness in my life, which I find to be the joy and what make me find fulfillment in. I think that is something that when I was reading your quote, I was reflecting upon. Maybe those are some of the things that I was trying to escape from the environment. Yeah. Another thing that you did mention in your quote will be how to break through your mental barriers, right? So that those repeated escapes eventually become the opportunity for me to break through my mental barriers. I want to explore a bit more on the mental barrier, but I will try to explore that with another quote of yours.
Okay.
So, from the same interview, I believe you mentioned another thing, and the quote goes, being a slasher means living a life that allows me to have many different versions of myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's safe to assume that through breaking through that mental barrier allows you to have many different versions of yourself, right? Or to start pursue this many different sides of you. One thing that struck me in that particular quote is the choice of word allows.
Mm.
In Chinese, you use 允许, which I think the Chinese it's better than allows. Yes. But I think the word allows to me means permission.
Yeah.
It means giving permission to do something. And in your case, breaking through that mental barrier allows you to have become who you are now, exploring different versions of yourself. My immediate question will be, why is it so hard to give yourself permission before?
Yeah, I think giving permission to myself, I think to me is being more authentic to my true self. And I think in the past it was hard because I really didn't realize that I wasn't living authentically. Say, like, for example, using this quote in the context of me sharing as my life as a slasher. Um, in the past, because I was very persuaded by the mindset that you have to be good at something, like you have to choose one of your passions or a job or a career, then you have to excel in it. You have to basically put all of your existence, all of your effort into that single thing in order to be good. I'm not just referring to, say, law or academics, or sometimes even if, say, you're into music or you're into art, then you go to study music, then you focus all your resources on that route and then you become a musician. I mean, that's the thought that is deeply rooted in my mind since young. I think it's because, like, since we're very young, we are often being asked the question of what do you want to be when you grow up? And then you would think of a career or think of at least a job. You know, will not say I want to be everything or I want to be a slasher or sometimes a sing or sometimes be a teacher.
Yeah.
Like you will pick one thing. And since young, I was deeply persuaded by the need of having to find something that I am really good at and I'm really interested in, and then I will put all my efforts in it. And I didn't realize that actually I don't have to really pick one thing. I mean, that's the authentic self that I realized after traveling and after breaking my mental barrier, knowing that what people expected from me or what the society expected from me may not be the definition of success or definition of happiness for me. Maybe I don't really have to be very good at something. I can just enjoy doing all my hobbies and doing a bit of everything every day. I can still live a happy life. So I think the reason why I wasn't able to break through that was because I really never thought of any other alternatives. It's deeply rooted in my mindset since young. And if I look at my friends or my peers, I mean, nowadays people often talk about slasher or having multiple identities, but back 10 years, 20 years back, nobody would talk about that. Everybody just asks what you want to do, and you will pick that degree in the university, and then you study and you graduate and you get into that job. It's just as simple as that. So I was struggling since very young because I have a lot of hobbies and I have a lot of interests. I don't think I'm very good in any of these. Like I have a passion
It's
about it.
rumble.
No, I'm just not good enough. So I'm kind of having not enough confidence to pick one thing that I really want to put all my efforts in. And at the same time, I can't decide on one single thing that I really want to do. Say, for example, some people ask, oh, why don't you quit law and do it full time on your travels or whatever it is?
Why?
But I also enjoy doing law, and I also enjoy having a stability in my job, giving me some flexibility to pursue my other passions. I mean, that's something that I also enjoy. So I often struggle in what should I pick. I mean, in the past, I was trying to force myself to pick one thing, and then that created a mental barrier on myself because I wasn't able to figure out that one thing that I really wanted to do, and that I can say that I will put all my efforts in it without any regret. I will give up everything else without any regret. Yeah.
For the sake of argument, you mentioned about traveling being the way for you to break through the mental barrier, right? But it doesn't just happen, right? Like everyone travels. And even if you have this realization, it doesn't mean that it will transform into action. So, what made you break through
Okay.
that and also translate those into actual actions?
That's a long. Well, I'll try to put
We
it
have time.
make it short. I think what I really mean is because I was usually very true to myself when I was traveling. I think we were discussing about how we write down our thoughts in journals before we started recording, and it's like I realized that when I'm traveling, I'm actually just doing the things that I wanted to do at that moment. For example, I didn't plan to post my travel content on an Instagram, on any social media. The reason why I started is just because um, the first time when I went to South America, I lost all of my luggages on the first day that I arrived. And then I just felt very helpless and frustrated, and I need to find a way out to vent. So I wrote my thoughts down, and I also wrote the experience down. And realized that writing that out makes me feel better because it's as if I've talked to someone. So I shared it on my Facebook, and then back then, and then people read and spread it to some strangers. That's how it started. And for a lot of things that I'm doing right now, whether it's writing or filming or even picking up my passion on music, it's also stems from my travels because I mean at that moment I really wanted to use music to express myself, and at that moment I really want to try filming because it's such a beautiful place or such a special experience that I feel I have to document it, and then it just happens. And I didn't plan any of these, but sooner or later they become part of my life or become part of my identity. And then I realized that, oh, actually, this is the true self of me. I mean, I doing a bit of everything that I like, expressing my feelings through different mediums that I enjoy doing, and at the same time enjoying my travels. And that's actually me. I mean, I don't really have to be able to find something I'm 100% passionate in it, and then I devote all my efforts. I quit my job and I spend everything. I spend all my efforts on that thing to develop my business or my travel content. I don't really have to do that. I can just be happy doing a bit of everything, and that shapes um, my identities right now. Yeah.
Hearing from what you just shared, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like a common theme. It's how you use self-reflection,
Yeah.
because you mentioned about a lot of the times is yes, you're venting out about your lost luggages,
Yeah.
but I'm sure a lot of those times it's like a way of expressing is also you're expressing your thoughts, your reflections on some things. And those things then enables you to do other things. So somehow it seems almost like self-reflection is your tool. It's the enabler that
Yeah.
is kind of connecting, or like it's an unlock basically. Self-reflection is your unlock to open new doors and to put things into actual action, which I find fascinating. Like how, as I told you, right, I'm trying to do a lot more self reflections these days, especially after a big trip. And one thing that I realized is how underestimated self reflections is. And as you said, when you're trapped in a similar environment where that might not be the most common thing that people do, you oftentimes like overlooked it. Even when people tell you, "Oh, it's good for you," it's not like I don't agree. It's more like I agree, but I got better things to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, which I'm excited to see how my self reflections, if I can be where you are as well, to become that unlock for me to do and see different doors and open on other different things as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right on that. Well, honestly, I've never imagined the power of self reflection can be so big,
Yeah.
so transformative. I mean, it sounds very, it sounds like something your mom or your teachers who said to you that you need to think deeper. But sometimes it's like not until you have experienced it, you won't feel the powerfulness of that. And it just happens that for me, traveling is the easiest way or the easiest way to lead me into that self-reflection box so that I can.
Can I ask if for someone that wants to get to where you are, and by where you are, I mean embodying that self reflection side of you, how would you say they should do it?
Well, I'm still learning actually. Because I don't think traveling is the only way leading to that. I mean, some people you can do it even in Hong Kong, meditation. Like nowadays, people like to do meditation. It's very popular. Even for myself, like in Hong Kong, I'm trying to start an exercise, forcing myself to write down my thoughts every day. It's hard because sometimes you just forget about it because you're not traveling. There's not a lot of stimulations that you want to write down, but I'm trying to force myself to journal every day.
And is there like a specific time that you limit yourself, or like how do you do that exercise?
I usually do it before I sleep, before I go to bed, but I don't really have any specific format or any specific way for myself to do it. I have a journal and I'll just sometimes I realize that I can't think of anything to write for today, but I'll still force myself to write down something. Mm. You realize that the moment that you write down that thing, it actually makes you feel happy or because you did not realize that, oh, actually something good happened today, not until the moment that you write it down. So sometimes I think self-reflection, it's about appreciating good things and bad things happening in your life. And well, when good things happen, then you realize that, oh, it's not that bad. And when bad things happen, you realize that, okay, it's just another day. So it's kind of that process that makes you get used to the different ups and downs of life. So I really enjoy journaling. I really think that self-reflection is really important. And journaling is one of the tools if not traveling. Some people maybe they don't really like to write, or they're not used to putting their thoughts into words. I think can just use whatever ways to note down your feelings, whether it's a video or it's a drawing.
Or voice
Oh
memo?
yeah, or voice memo. Yeah, I do that too sometimes, especially when I'm traveling and too tired to write. I'll just record a voice memo, or oh, I feel very relieved because I just met somebody. I'll just record it. I think it's important to be aware of what's happening every day. It's kind of like the quote that I chose when I started. Be a person with a soul. It's like you are being very sensitive and consciously aware of the things that is going on inside your mind as well as in the environment.
Mm. It reminds me of what I did during my travel. When I approached journaling at first, everyone tells you that, oh, it's good when you're traveling, or just like jot down your thoughts and just like journal, right? And I was like, oh, okay, let me just try to get myself to journal more. But then it becomes such a big task that I put on myself. And when your brain register that it being a task, I think there will be even more resistance of doing it. So at the very first month of my travel, what I realized is that I couldn't even spend like dedicate time to sit down and journal, just because every day there's so much stimulations happening. And I feel like I'm failing this whole journaling thing. Yeah.
Oh,
But then I realize it's not really that I failed to do so. I think it's more the way that I think about journaling. It's not the most conducive to actually
exactly.
doing it because I put it like as the big boss saying to face the like every day, which sometimes I get stressful just by, oh, I need to put in time, but I failed yesterday, I failed the day before, blah blah blah. So what I did eventually is like fuck putting down like dedicate time an hour by myself. Instead, what I did is I'm just open my notes app on my phone, and whenever a thought
Came
pops
in,
up,
yeah.
I will just write one line.
Right.
One line
Yeah.
will be my journal. And
That's good
then
enough.
what I yes, and then I realized it's actually good enough because after a few months, I would admit I failed to sit down and journal for real for a couple of months. But then I start to realize that I have accumulated a list of one lines. Obviously, what I try to do as I get further down the list will be to not only write one line, but also the context where I am at, what I'm seeing, so that when I look back, I can get back to that line and really understand and like uncover other thoughts that I have in that moment. But I think that is kind of like the way that I did it, and I find it to be a way more easier, which led me to very interesting thoughts, which then I genuinely want to spend time by myself and further decipher those
Yeah.
thoughts just by that one line. So I think that is one way of how I do it as well. It's interesting how there are so many different ways to approach self-reflection. I'm definitely a newbie here. But I find it to be very beneficial to myself, and I'm still trying to progress on that journey. Yeah. Um, but moving beyond self-reflection, you also mentioned in that quote, breaking through that mental barrier allows you to have many different versions of yourself. I want to spend a little bit of time on that many different versions of yourself, especially your slasher identity, like I hate to use the word identity on slasher. For some reason, I find it to be a little
Yeah.
bit weird as well. But just let's say with the many things that you manage to put and spend time on right now, I'm interested less about the things that you've gained. I'm curious about, were there trade-offs along the
Yeah.
way for you to become where you are now as a slasher?
Yeah, there are definitely trade-offs. I think the major trade-offs would be, well, firstly, um, being able to be at the absolute top on that thing. Because, well, honestly, everybody only has 24 hours a day. So if you spend time on something, then you are also spending less time on the other things. The second thing that I've sacrificed, I think it's what I have to let go is perfectionism, because you only have 24 hours a day. And imagine, say, I really enjoy sharing about my contents on my social media, and well, eventually nowadays maybe sometimes I'll have some jobs on my social media platforms, or some advertisements. Well, if comparing to those who are doing it full time, then I only have maybe every night, if I don't have to work overtime, then I'll have, say, 2 to 3 hours to work on that version, or that identity, or that I don't know how to describe it, but
Role.
yeah, that role. Then if you constantly compare, or if you want yourself to be at the very top, like be a very successful content creator in travels, or have how many followers or subscribers on YouTube, then you will feel very frustrated. But at the same time, you'll have to realize, because the amount of time that you're putting in is limited, you only have 24 hours a day, and you spend the rest of your day doing something else. So you have to accept that. So that's obviously a trade-off. You also cannot be like perfectionist in everything, because otherwise you realize that you're stuck at the process, and you won't be able to get anything done because you have so many things to do in your different roles. Yeah.
What do you tell yourself when you're stuck in that perfectionism?
Well, I just tell myself that actually it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you have something produced, it's better than having nothing produced and dragged on forever. Because of the time limitation, well, I'm constantly telling myself that if you want to do it, then you have to do it. You don't have that much time as you imagine, because you never know whether you will still be able to do this or live the life as you're currently living for the next 5 or 10 years, or even the next month. Things happen, accidents happen. So sometimes instead of being perfect or waiting for a perfect product to be produced, maybe you just work on it first and you just share it when you are 80% or 70% satisfied with the product. Maybe it's okay. So that's what I'm persuading myself. And sometimes I realize those kind of perfectionism that I was going after was actually not really that. It's not about not doing your job well. It's about you are very anal about some details that actually nobody really cares about, whether it's in my job or in my videos. And sometimes, say for example, I was discussing with you about the podcast that I was doing, and the first few episodes I was actually very, very stressful because I was like putting all the subtitles and making sure that everything was correct. Of course, you have to make sure everything's correct, but sooner or later I realized that I need to give up the subtitles because I've not enough time. I mean, if somebody else is going to help me in the future, or if I manage to find some resources or have somebody helping me, then of course I would add that in. But for now, between not having the video published versus you have a perfect video published, but you have to wait for another 2 to 3 weeks to get it done, then I will prefer the former one. I will release it first. I will do it first because I just can't wait until I have the time. The truth is that I don't have that much time in the coming weeks. Yeah, I know very well that if I have to come up with a perfect video, then maybe I will need another 3 weeks. Yeah.
It seems like perfectionism is a way to tell yourself that you will gain quality without registering that you're losing a lot of other stuff. As you said, the feedback that you get from the outside world that, oh, actually people don't care about the tiny little details that you want to perfect. It may be losing time. It may be stopping you from taking action and really launching something, promoting something, and be the person that you actually want to be. It's oftentimes like that final 20%, like people say like 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah.
And then it's always like, 80%. And then like the final 20% is kind of like where you spend the most of your time trying to perfect, which it's oftentimes not as important as you think. Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, it's hard. Sometimes I would also have the sense of guilt, thinking that whether I'm not doing my best because I'm only giving that 80% in that particular video or particular job, particular task. But then that's a trade-off. If you have to do so many things in your life, if you recognize the kind of life that you want to live is to have a lot of different areas that you are trying to develop or trying to spend time on, then it seems unavoidable that you will have to accept that trade-off. Yeah.
There is a third quote that I want to share, which is the last one as well. I'll just read it to you. I think it's from your book, actually. Solo traveling gave me space to talk to myself, which led to more realizations and perspectives I had never had before. Obviously, we touch on the speak to myself quite extensively just now. Now I want to go to the realizations and perspectives that you had never had before. I know it's a tough question, but do you think you have one newfound perspective that has the most impact to how you live your life?
I think, well, yeah, definitely. I mean, those inspirations from my travels, obviously, they change how I think in different stages. The things that change me may be different from the things that change myself when I was younger. But now, I think if I have to talk about a reason, not really reason, but something that really impacted the way of my I went to Mongolia in 2023. So it was shortly after COVID, I think, in the early, I think it was April actually. And then it was a totally random trip. The reason why I chose Mongolia as the destination was because I saw the air tickets were really cheap and it was Easter. Going everywhere would be very expensive. And then after I booked the ticket, I realized the reason why it was so cheap was because April, it's actually not a suitable season for traveling to Mongolia because it's in between.
So cold, or
It's in between winter and between summer, so the weather is very unstable.
okay.
It's known to be unstable. Like sometimes you have snowstorms, but sometimes you have sandstorms. It's like very, very wild weather. But okay, I still decided to go, and I realized that a lot of places that I was planning to go, or I imagined that I would be doing in Mongolia, such as in a green grassland riding a horse that's not available in April because you only see sand and you only see some brownish
It's a very
ground.
good travel tip. I'll just look down. Yeah.
And then so I was thinking about, okay, what I should do? I already bought the air tickets and I Googled online and I found an article. I forgot whether it's the BBC or the CNN or something like that about a guy from Norway having a soft opening of his new hotel in Mongolia. And then I found very curious because I was wondering why would a Norwegian open a hotel in a Mongolian style? It's like those Mongolian yurt. I think they're not called yurt, but like Monggobao. Yeah, that he's opening a hotel in that style, but he's Norwegian, and so I was very curious, and I tried to look for the hotel, and they don't even have a website for reservation because it's only soft opening in April, and then it's located in a very remote area, not near the other touristic areas, but I still decided to pay a visit. And then the conversation with this hotel owner from Norway actually changed quite a lot of my thinking because this guy, I was expecting someone very wild, like a nomad, even though he's a Norwegian, but he's doing something so exotic. So I was expecting something maybe with someone with long hair and then with a very cool and a very unique kind of character. Well, he's a very special person, but turns out that he actually has a very stable job back in Norway. He's in his 40s and then he was kind of stuck in life maybe 5 years ago before we met. And then he went to Mongolia for a trip. He just rented a horse and then used the horse to travel across and fell in love with the place, but realized that it's a pity that they don't really know how to build a sustainable or good hotel. So he decided to see if there are available lands that he can buy and then he can try to build a hotel in a Norwegian style, but respecting the local cultures. And then he somehow made it work that he didn't really have to completely quit his original profession. And somehow he can spend time in Mongolia to start the hotel project. So I was very shocked because I was thinking that he must be someone that has been traveling from places to places, no longer having any attachments with Norway or trying to live life in Asia. But no, he's saying that it's just part of the things that he wants to do, but he still have other things that he wanted to do in Norway in his original life or career. So he will continue to pursue those. But he doesn't think it's a must to pick or one out of the various options. His plan is just to spend 2 to 3 years focusing on this new project. Then after it's running smoothly, he will move back to Norway with his family and things like that. So back then I was thinking, oh, I've never thought of that. I mean, I've always been wanting to have my own hotel or start a project of my own in maybe some remote places or some exotic places. But to me, it's a really far away dream. It's like I will have to wait until I retire, or I will have to wait until that urge of me of quitting or of like quitting my life in Hong Kong. I will have to start all over again. I will have to wait until I'm ready to do that. But then the conversation with him makes me realize that actually there are always a midway in things. I mean, you don't really have to wait until the perfect moment. You can start little by little and see where it leads you to. So this is part of the reason that after talking to him, I invested in some like a hostel. It's not really a hostel, but Riyadh in Morocco. It's actually because after talking to him, I realized that, well, even though I have my job in Hong Kong right now, I can't really spend 100% of my time in Morocco. Or well, although my ultimate goal would be to really to be running a hostel in or running a hotel in a place that I like. But maybe I can start by investing, or maybe I can start by gaining the experience of how to do it. I can do it little by little. Gradually, maybe I will figure out a way that suits me the best.
It's nice. I really enjoyed how it's usually these unexpected stories and
Yeah.
people that you met. It doesn't have to be trouble as well, right? But how everything is just one conversation away from changing how you see things and influencing you to make new decisions in your life. And that is kind of what I meant by the randomness.
Randomness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like if everything is so calculated, everything is so expected, maybe you won't be investing in that Morocco hostel or accommodation that you just mentioned.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, if actually, I collaborated with a travel agency last year, bringing a bunch of people from Hong Kong to Morocco, and part of the reason is to visit
Ah,
the place
nice.
that I invested in. I mean, if I did not meet this Norwegian guy, and if I did not come home and then suddenly that because the investment is actually it's actually about randomness as well. Because I came back from Mongolian and then I was suddenly saying on Instagram that, oh, I wanted to invest in maybe a hotel or a hostel in somewhere outside of Hong Kong. And then I got connected by some friends who saw that I posted this thought on Instagram. That's how it all started. So it all started from randomness.
Yeah, nice. Opening a hostel is also one of my dreams.
Right.
Let's take this offline.
Yeah.
Let's chat more. Yeah. Before I close, there's just one more thing I want to hear your thoughts on. Is along the lines of like realization and perspective as well. Um, Having new realization and perspective presents you an opportunity to become a new version of self. As you said, depend on different phase, and I think with new perspective, it changes how you see what you do. It also means how with new perspective you have outgrown your old version of yourself. My question is, did it feel lonely?
Mhm.
Or let me put it that way. Um, did it feel lonely along the journey as you constantly outgrown yourself? Is that is that
I
journey
get what you
lonely?
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lonely journey because like whenever you return home and you are back in the environment, the very familiar environment that you're at, then you realize that it's like you have changed your mentality, but people around you are actually still the same. It's not that you feel superior or something. It's just that sometimes I find it very hard to explain to people the kind of changes or the reasons why I'm doing these new things, especially with my close friends. It's not that we are not close, but it's that they are living the kind of life that I was very familiar with before having these new perspectives. So whenever I tell them I had this new perspective, they will be like, "Whoa, you're crazy." Um, like they are very supportive, but at the same time, they will be like, oh, you're so crazy. You really have to do this." They will be questioning me, and well, of course, I will persuade them, and I would tell them more about the reasons why I'm doing that or why I'm making such a decision, the perspectives that I got from my travels. But then sometimes it just feels like you have to explain more to others in order for others to understand you. But at that point, I would realize that actually maybe I don't need a lot of people to understand me because I only need myself to understand myself. That sometimes the satisfaction would be there if I feels like I am authentic to myself and I understand what I'm doing, even if others may be questioning or they're supportive, but they may not fully understand what you are going through.
I think that's very good. As in how the most important person that needs to understand your journey is yourself. And that speaks to the authenticity that you just mentioned.
Yeah, and also that also speaks to the reason why you feels like you're able to face the different versions of yourself after all these transformation and inspirations that you got from travels because you're more familiar with the authentic version of yourself.
I ask just because I am exactly in that phase right now. How I just came from my 7, 8 months trip and I caught myself in a phase where it feels lonely at times. I don't think it's a bad thing, because it means how much you've grown as well.
Yeah.
But I sometimes find it hard to explain. It's not like I don't want to explain, but it's also tiring to explain. And I even caught myself simply not meeting or not sharing at all because it will just save a lot more effort.
Yeah.
And I start reading more about it, and I come to a thing called loneliness tax of growth. when you're outgrowing yourself,
Mhm.
but people still expects you to perform as the old you. But along the journey, that old you no longer serves you.
Right.
So when you're stuck in that middle part, the price of growth will be to pay that loneliness tax. And I find that to be very fitting of my situation right now. And yes, I think there is so much to further explore when it comes to not only the journey, but also what happens after the journey, after you have gained so much perspective and realization.
That's the more difficult part, usually.
Yes. And as you said, with yourself being surrounded by old environment, old friends, family, colleagues, like how do you explain to your family that I want to create when they are so fixated on security and safety?
Yeah.
How do you tell your friends that career is not your one priority anymore when they're still chasing that promotion and
Yeah.
status? How do you explain to your old colleagues that what you once put your blood, sweat, and tears on is no longer what you care about to that extent? So I think it's very interesting how this phase is for me right now, and I'm still trying to learn as I go. But it's good to hear that this is the more difficult part, so I'll be prepared for it. But it's good to hear that it resonates somehow with what you feel in the past. Yeah. Um, I think we've been talking for an hour. To end this, I usually ask my guests two things. What's the worst advice that you ever received? And what's the best advice that you ever received? So would you mind sharing maybe the worst piece of advice
Yeah, I
and
think
then the best
the
piece?
worst piece of advice I would be easier to share because it kind of resonates what I said earlier in this chat would be stick with one thing and master it, or don't be a jack of all pots, master of none, because that's the thing that I used to hear a lot. Well, I think the reason why I care a lot about this advice is because I used to have a mentor who I respect a lot and admire a lot, and he always asked me this question: what if you have to pick one thing to do in your life? Like if you know that you are dying tomorrow and or you're dying next week, then what would you do? And that was the point that I realized that I actually struggle a lot because I mean I don't really have one thing that I want to do if I'm dying tomorrow. Like I just want to live my life happily. I just want to maybe sing a bit, meet my friends, if possible, maybe travel a bit or write something. It's a bit of everything. So and then sooner or later, through the travels, as I mentioned, then I realized that maybe it's not a must to have one single answer, or the answer may not have to be a passion or one passion that I have to pick on. Yeah. So this is the worst advice that I think I've got. And the best advice I think would be every choice comes with a sacrifice. So just pick the choice with the sacrifice that it's worth it. Yeah. Because no matter how you choose whether to quit or not to quit, whether to go on that trip or not to go on that trip, whether to start that thing or not to start that thing, actually you're sacrificing something. So no matter how you choose, you may regret and you may not regret. So just follow your heart and do what you want to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's been really fruitful conversations for me. I think seeing how you managed to pivot and navigate through your life, I think it's definitely a very interesting one, especially within such an environment of Hong Kong.
I'm very happy for you too. I
Thank
mean,
you.
hearing about your travels, like we discussed a lot about your travels
Yeah.
before we started recording.
But I hope this chat is, I mean, the intention is to touch on things beyond travel, right? Because, I mean, I think we've talked enough about travel. I think everyone is also talking about travel. And then, yeah, but hopefully you enjoyed this conversation as well, as much as I did. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you are going to do more. And let's discuss the hostel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.